Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to introduce our topic, topography of the Indian Ocean region. In this session, we'll explore the diverse landscape features that shape this vital area. We'll look at the physical geography, the key landforms, and how they influence the climate and human activity. Let's get started and discover the fascinating topography of this important region together. Topography is the study and description of an area's physical features. It includes things like mountains, valleys, drainage patterns, and other landforms that shape the landscape. It also considers artificial features such as buildings and roads. The focus is on understanding the three-dimensional shape and elevation of the land's surface, which helps us grasp how the terrain looks and how it influences human activity and natural processes. On the ocean surface, we have what we call submarine relief features. These are the underwater counterparts to landforms, such as underwater mountains or trenches. To measure and analyze these relief features, scientists use various technical tools like sonar and bathymetry. These tools help us create detailed maps of underwater landscapes, much like how topographers map land. Overall, topography is essential because it helps us understand the physical characteristics of a region, whether on land or beneath the sea, and it connects deeply to how we interact with and manage our environment. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's talk about the seaward extension of the continent. This area is characterized by very shallow waters, with an average depth ranging between 100 to 200 meters. The width of the continental shelf varies quite a bit, from as narrow as 3 or 4 kilometers to as wide as 100 kilometers. Interestingly, this region accounts for about 8 to 9% of the total ocean basin. Because the water here is relatively shallow and the gradient is very gentle, less than half a degree, this creates an ideal environment for the photic zone, where sunlight penetrates enough to foster the growth of plankton. This productivity supports a rich marine ecosystem. The continental shelf is also incredibly important economically. It's a major source of minerals, sands, and gravels, as well as petroleum and natural gas. Think of examples like the Bombay High Oil Field or the Godavari Basin, which are significant contributors to our energy resources. In addition, coral reefs thrive in this zone, adding to its biodiversity. You'll also find submarine canyons here. These are steep-sided valleys, mostly near river mouths, and they're quite striking features of the continental shelf. Overall, the continental shelf plays a vital role in marine life, economic resources, and geological features, making it a key part of the ocean's structure and our natural environment. Now, after reaching the shelf breakpoint, we see that the continental shelf transitions into a much steeper slope, which is called the continental slope. This slope extends downward towards the deep sea level, and its depths typically range from about 200 meters to 3,000 meters. Because of its steepness, the continental slope doesn't accumulate as much sediment as the shelf does. Instead, sediments tend to slide down and gather at the base of the slope, forming what we call the continental rise. This area acts as a kind of transitional zone between the steep slope and the vast abyssal plain. The continental rise is important because it helps us understand how sediments are redistributed from the shallower continental areas to the deep ocean floor, shaping the overall structure of the oceanic crust and contributing to the broader theme of ocean basin development. The abyssal plain is actually the most extensive relief zone of the ocean basins. These deep-seated plains have depths that range from about 3,000 to 6,000 meters, making them some of the flattest and smoothest regions in the ocean floor. In fact, they cover roughly 75.9% of the total area of the ocean basins. If we look at the different oceans, the Pacific Ocean has about 80.3% of its area as abyssal plains, the Indian Ocean around 80.1%, and the Atlantic Ocean approximately 54.9%. You'll also find interesting features like ocean plateaus, ridges, trenches, seamounts, and oceanic trenches scattered throughout these plains, showing how dynamic and varied the ocean floor really is. The floor of the abyssal plains is mostly covered with sediments made up of fossils of marine organisms, and we call these oozes. These oozes are rich in organic material and give us clues about the deep-sea life and conditions. However, not all ocean floors produce oozes. Some open sea areas don't have these sediments, and instead, their floors are covered with what we call red clay. This difference is important because it reflects variations in biological activity and sedimentation processes across different regions. Additionally, these plains are significant because minerals and rare earth elements are found here. This makes them not only vital for understanding ocean geology, but also potential sources for valuable resources. So, the abyssal plain is truly a crucial part of the ocean's overall structure, vast, complex, and rich in both biological and mineral wealth. Let's now turn our attention to the strategic zone. This is a critical area where we focus on aligning our goals with our long-term vision. It's about making deliberate choices that steer the organization towards sustainable growth and success. When we talk about the strategic zone, we're essentially referring to the space where high-impact decisions are made, those that set the direction for everything else. It's important to recognize that this zone requires a clear understanding of both internal capabilities and external market dynamics. By effectively navigating this space, we ensure that our resources are used efficiently and that our initiatives support our overall mission. Connecting this to the broader theme of the presentation, the strategic zone embodies the importance of proactive planning and strategic thinking. It's where we differentiate ourselves by making informed decisions that build a strong foundation for the future. So, mastering this zone is key to maintaining competitive advantage and achieving our long-term objectives. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide.